Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this very special webinar this morning, presented to you by Rowdens Chartered Accountants, Penny and Jonathan Rowden, your business continuity plan. My name is Debbie Spooner, and I will be moderating and overseeing this webinar this morning. So just before we get into everything, and just checking in with everybody, can you just please confirm by typing in the questions box that you can see and hear okay? The dashboard on GoToWebinar is confirming for me that everything is okay for you all, but if you could just confirm by typing in the questions that you can all see and hear. If you don't know how to do this, I'll just show you from the housekeeping. At the top right hand side of your screen, you'll see a little orange arrow that will enable you to expand and collapse the GoToWebinar features. You will also be able to see your audio selection. Workbooks and handouts are going to be available if you request them from Penny and Jonathan after this session, and you're able to type the questions in the question panel here. So brilliant. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Meg. Wonderful. So we're all live, direct, and everyone is happy and healthy. Wonderful. Okay. So without further ado, let me introduce you to today's panelists, Penny Rowden and Jonathan Rowden of Rowdens Chartered Accountants, who will be guiding you through their very special webinar today for you, the business owners, around building out a business continuity plan and how they and their team are here to support you. So without further ado, welcome Penny and Jonathan.
Hello everyone, it's Penny here. We're going to bring Jonathan in later on. Thank you very much, Debbie, and thank you everyone for making time to listen into this important webinar. We appreciate that these are unprecedented times with great uncertainty and concern for you all. We want you to know that we're here for you, albeit remotely, to give you whatever support we can to get you through these difficult times. Our strapline for our firm is achieving success together, and this really does link to our core purpose of helping family-owned businesses achieve success, whether that is in terms of financial success or simply enabling the people involved in that business to live the lives they wish. This holds true just as much now in these uncertain times as it always has. So with this core purpose in mind, we're here to share with you practical things you can do to mitigate the impact of the current COVID-19 pandemic on your business and family life. Before we kick off, I just want to give you a thought for the day from JF Kennedy. When written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters, Wei and Ji. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. In fact, JFK was not entirely correct in his translation, but the mistranslation is now so widely spread, it's even used by some native Chinese speakers. Regardless, what we're faced with now is most certainly a crisis. At the same time, it is a time of real opportunity, an opportunity for you to take a leadership role in helping your team at their time of greatest need, be proactive in communicating with your clients or customers, and make a plan for a more sustainable and resilient business, or in the worst case, a plan to exit your business with the minimum negative impact on you and your team. Before we run through the agenda, please do take notes and submit questions in the question panels as we go along, as Debbie said earlier. So, the agenda for this webinar is first to have a look at some helpful mindsets, as it's so easy when things are challenging to look down and focus on the problem rather than look up and look for the opportunities and maybe think outside the box. I'm then going to run through some of the aspects of building a plan for business continuity, and then Jonathan is going to talk about some of the more technical points regarding business continuity planning and give an outline of the support now available from the government. I'll then wrap up with some suggested next steps in developing the plan and how we can help you, and then we'll both be very happy to answer any questions. To put us all in the right frame of mind, I want to share the most powerful business model I've ever seen. It's called Orbed. In times of crisis, we have two choices about how we can respond. We can act below the line or act above the line. Above the line actions would go something like this. Take ownership that we can and we must do something to protect ourselves and our business, even if that actually means closing our business. Recognise that we are accountable to our team and our clients at their time of greatest need, and take responsibility for protecting ourselves, our team, our customers, and our business from these difficult times. Or we can act below the line. We can blame someone else for bringing a virus into our country. We can make excuses why there is nothing we can do about it, or go into denial that there's even an issue, and in so doing put ourselves, our team, and our business at great risk. The fundamental mindset here is that we have a choice, and we mustn't take on a victim mindset in these times. As well as acting above the line, we also have to consider, oh, actually, sorry, I've just missed out the bit just where, Debbie, yeah, thank you. So you can choose whether you act as a victor or a victim. You have choice, and you don't have to just keep justifying yourselves. So think about being the adult, take control, see it, do it, own it. Or speaking from the you, if you're below the line, then you're being childlike, you're feeling out of control, you put your head in the sand and just think it's not my job, not take any initiative at all. So well worth having a think about that one and seeing if you can stay above the line. We all drop below the line at times, I know I do, but it's a good idea to really try and think from the top side of that screen. Okay, Debbie, thank you. Can we just go on to the next screen now? So as well as acting above the line, we also have to consider who we need to be in these times. In other words, our personal brand and identity. So this is the be, do, have principle. And if we're not careful, we could act like this. We can say, when I have got through these pressing client matters, I'll be able to do things like make a plan to get through this and talk to my team about what all this means for them so that I can be a great leader of my business and my team. This resonates so much with me. My natural tendency is to think like this. I've always said, oh, you know, I must just get this done first and then I'll do that and then I'll really be in a position to do this. And it's so easy to think like that. But actually, it's better to be the other way around. So in order to be a great leader of my business, I need to do things like update my plan and get proactive with my team and my customers during this time of crisis. And then I will have the most successful business I can have in these difficult times. And so there's just some description about how you can actually think about it. And as Zig Ziglar says, you've got to be before you can do and do before you can have. So I think turning right on its head what our natural tendency is to be. So do have a think about that, as I think it helps. The next mindset is from Sir Richard Branson and serves as a great reminder as to where we need to place our most energy right now. So thinking about who we need to look after in these times, first and foremost, it is about you as the owner. But we also need to think about our team if we have one. We also need to look after our customers. And we need to look after the business. So what we find as owners are that all of our energy is split between the team, the customers, and the business itself, with very little time to think of ourselves. So Sir Richard Branson gives us a very useful model to follow. So if we have a team, even if these are contractors, make sure as an owner that you're doing whatever you can to look after them. By looking after your team well, they will be well equipped to look after your customers. You might, for example, talk to your team about a pivot in your sales plan to cope with these challenging times, maybe a new product or a service, and the team can pass on this message to existing or new customers. If you pivot your sales message and your team look after and find new customers, then those customers will look after your business. And if this new sales plan is in place, then the business will look after you as the owner. I appreciate this may seem oversimplified, and some of you on this webinar won't have a team. The point here is it all starts with you as the owner. If you act above the line, remember who you need to be and make a new plan, it should start with your team, as they can then look after your customers, etc., so you don't get overwhelmed. If you don't have a team, the plan needs to start with your customers, who will then look after the business, etc. We want to help you build this plan as the business owner. So knowing that the Sir Richard Branson model starts with you as the business owner, let's talk about what you can do to improve your resilience right now. Your well-being is critical. Remember to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Make sure you stay healthy, get as much sleep as you can, keep your exercise going and get support if you need it. Select your information sources carefully and try to minimize time spent on social media about this issue. Stay calm, stay connected with friends and family, and try and stay positive. Focus on the needs of your family. Their health and well-being is obviously extremely important. Make a plan for how they can be supported, especially if they have to go into isolation. A very empowering thing you can do is a personal budget. This doesn't need to be complex. It could be as simple as totaling your expenditure from the last month or two to identify your monthly personal costs. From there, identify where you can make savings, e.g. on entertainment, coffee, travel, gifts, holidays. All of those are really quite hard to have now, especially the holidays, the entertainment, the coffee, etc. Every saving you make takes pressure off what the business needs to provide to you. Don't cut costs for essential utilities, though. A strong and reliable internet connection is a must if you'll be working from home. Likewise, think about your personal asset planning and planning for your family. Things like making sure your personal insurances, life and income protection, for instance, wills, memorandum of wishes are up to date. Make sure you and your appropriate family members have powers of attorney in place. There are different kinds of powers of attorney to think about here. If you're over 18 years old and have the mental ability to make financial, property and medical decisions for yourself, you can arrange for someone else to make these decisions for you in the future. This legal authority is called a property and financial affairs lasting power of attorney. And then there's a second one for decisions about your daily routine, washing, dressing, eating, medical care, moving into a care home and life-sustaining medical treatment. This is called a personal welfare lasting power of attorney. It can only be used if you're unable to make your own decisions. And clearly, if you have elderly relatives, then these become particularly important. We've got a situation in our own family where my parents have the financial one in place, but when they did it, I think at that point it covered the health, and that's now been split. And so now it would be really helpful to us to have a health one in place, which is needs to be organised. So, you know, it's a bit of a concern for us too. So it is generally recommended that you set up both a personal welfare lasting power of attorney and a property and financial affairs one at the same time. Many people do this while reviewing or revising their will, and you may be able to use the same solicitor. You can apply online for a power of attorney on Gov.uk, and alternatively, you can contact the Office of the Public Guardian for an application pack. Now is a good time to make sure you have these LPAs in place, or review who you've appointed in the past to make sure that person is still capable and willing to act. Really important in these times. So your team resilience. Your team members will be worried about job security. The government has stated that there will be job losses during this time. Be open with your team, share relevant parts of your plan with them, and be honest about the potential impact the pandemic will have on your business. If there are to be job losses, ensure you obtain legal and HR advice on the best way to handle the restructuring and redundancy process. It's likely that people will remain in some form of lockdown in the coming weeks and possibly months. Decide what additional resources you need to provide your team with if you haven't already. Consider how you can best utilise technology to maintain team communication. Make sure you have a COVID-19 policy in place to keep your team safe, and let them know what support is available to them. We'll cover government support in more detail shortly. Right, your clients and your customers. The support you offer your clients and customers now will impact the support your customers give you in the future. Customers need to be reassured that you're still operating and that you're taking specific measures to mitigate their exposure to the virus. Your policy should cover the steps your business is taking to protect your customers. Share this information with them to offer reassurance that you're taking every practical step to reduce the risk and protect both your customers and your team. Review your terms of trade and update the terms to reflect your changing business practices. Share your updated terms of trade with your customers, highlighting key changes. In particular, review your payment terms and delivery terms. Remember to enforce your terms of trade at this time. Don't let customers avoid paying you if it's at all possible, as this could have a material impact on the sustainability of your business. Just as we mentioned earlier to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, it is essential that you make sure you have sufficient cash coming into your business from your customers. Cash is the oxygen your business needs to survive. We'll talk more about cash flow management shortly, as there are always things you can do here. Your suppliers. To improve your cash flow, make a plan for dealing with your suppliers. Payment arrangements and negotiations. Where you can, negotiate new payment terms with your suppliers. If you can pay upfront, ask for a prompt payment discount. If you don't have sufficient cash flow to pay upfront, ask to pay over a longer period of time. Ask if it's possible to hold stock on consignment, where you can only pay the supplier once you've sold that stock. Purchasing policies. Discuss your supplier's supply chain and the measures they're taking to continue supply. Ask about their contingency plans for what may happen if deliveries can't be made or supplies can't be obtained. Consider whether you need to order additional stock while it's available, if it's likely to become scarce in the coming months. Reduce your current minimum reordering levels and consider whether there are some items of stock that should not be reordered at all. Return of stock. Review your supplier contracts in regard to the return of stock. Discuss whether you can return excess stock that isn't selling. Ensure contracts are updated if any terms change. If you can't return stock, then consider discounting slow-moving stock to convert it back to cash, and obviously don't reorder that same stock. Contracts. Review the contracts you have with suppliers. Is there a clause which would allow you to cancel orders or change the terms in this current crisis? If you can't meet the terms of your contract, seek legal advice and negotiate with the supplier. Review all other key contracts with lessors of premises, vehicles and equipment. You may need to renegotiate significant terms. Do not assume that these contracts can't be renegotiated, as your current cash flow and ability to meet financial obligations may be significantly impacted. Some of those key providers will be prepared to renegotiate terms. I'm now going to hand over to Jonathan, who will take you through some business cash and growth cycles.
Thank you, Penny. Good morning, everybody. I trust you can all hear me, and I trust we're all well in the challenging times. So what we're going to talk about today is how to get your cash into the business more quickly, because clearly this is where we know we need to do what we need to do both now and when we come out of the current crisis going forward in the future. So what we've done here is we've got a little example of a cash conversion cycle. We used an example of a wholesaler, but it could equally apply to a builder, an IT consultant, everybody who actually gives credit to their customers. So using a wholesaler as an example, he'll buy stock from the supplier and perhaps he'll have terms to pay them on 45 days. Cash comes in, sorry, the stock comes in and he starts selling it. Some stock will sell quickly, some a bit slower, and some will actually perhaps be returned to the supplier because it can't be sold. You may even have to discount the old stock just to get it out of the premises. If we just use an example of this, let's say it takes on average, stock is held for 60 days. When the stock is sold, normally we give credit to our customers, but a number of customers are, especially in today's times, not observing the credit terms. If we say on average it takes 60 days to get a customer to pay, we can now calculate what our cash conversion cycle is. Obviously, we have 45 days to pay our suppliers, but it may well take us to some lengthy time to get the cash in from our customers. So in difficult times such as this, we need to ensure we have a plan to get our cash conversion cycle shorter. Using the numbers from your most recent management accounts, and if you're on a zero client, we can help you with that. We can work out what your cash conversion cycle is. And then we can discuss with you how you can shorten that cash conversion cycle. For example, if your debtors are, say, £50,000 and your turnover is £500,000 a year, if you can reduce your cash conversion cycle by 10 days, that's worth approximately £13,000 or £13,700 to you. And obviously in today's environment, and perhaps looking forward in, say, 3 months' time, that cash is going to be important so we can all continue to pay our suppliers as well. So part of completing your business continuity plan, which Penny will go through later on, is to work out how to free up as much of your cash flow as possible in the next few days and months to come. And I think we're ready for the next one now. So another one we need to focus on is what the Americans have called the Business 101 cycle. And here's an example of how we see that. As we all know, there's a massive difference between profit and cash. Profit, sadly, is what you pay tax on. No one likes doing that. But cash is the oxygen that your business needs to continue. What is so important here is, as well as improving your cash flow cycle, you make plans to maximize your profit and at the same time finance your business correctly. So let's have a quick run through the cycle. Starting at the top, as the owner, you're probably putting your own money into the business to finance it. You may have even gone to the bank to arrange some finance to help you buy some fixed assets, office building, plant and machinery, etc. You use these assets to generate your profit. How you increase profit is to improve your revenue or sales. And I know that's difficult in today's times, but some people are looking at new products they can sell. Increase the margin or efficiency of sales, and then perhaps trim some overhead expenses. So now is a very good time to be looking closely at potential new revenue lines, new potential customers, pivot your sales strategy, or what can you do to avoid losing existing customers. At the same time, you should be looking at how you can improve your margins. Are there any efficiency gains you can do? Are there better purchasing, reduce errors and wastage, or simply discontinue with products or services that have a poor margin? I think we all know when times are good, and times have been relatively good, we all get a bit lazy in fact, and recessions cause us to actually get a grip of these things and start trimming the fat so we're more efficient and come out leaner and meaner. So once you look to your profit, you need to turn that into cash. We've seen it before, profitable businesses can and do go bust at times like these. You need to be looking at how you can maximize your cash flow by using strategies to get paid quicker. Reduce your stock or work in progress, or by negotiating better terms with your suppliers. Now is not the time to be slow or lenient on the people who owe you money. I think Penny's mentioned that before. We all need to keep the money spinning around the economy. So if I pay my suppliers and my suppliers pay their suppliers, eventually it might come back to me because one of my customers is able to pay me some money. You need to think about, can you cope with less stock? Do you need to reorder stock? Do you need to talk to some of your suppliers about some of the stock you think may be in short supply? Because when the recession ends, and it will end, you want to be able to be first in the queue to get that stock. You need to start your new business up and running. You could also talk to your bank and other finance companies. Can you go on to an interest-only repayment plan for a period, or even perhaps ask them for a repayment holiday? People doing this on mortgages, the banks may agree to that on bank loans as well. And again, we'll go through those talking to your finance people in a few minutes. So we've talked about the cash conversion cycle and the Business 101 cycle. The next thing to talk about is how you can improve your business. And hopefully we're going to cover the next slide. And this just shows there are 7 ways that we can increase and grow our business. So the first one is increase our client retention rate. What can you do in the current situation to delight your clients right now? Many of them will also be struggling to stay in contact with you, so you need to see how you can hold on to their business wherever possible. Lead generation. You should also now be looking at new avenues to attract potential new customers. Increasing your marketing using cost-effective methods such as social media could be a great way of attracting new business. And I think what we're seeing is that people are adopting this and that they're just diving in. They may not be waiting to make it perfect. I think, as someone said, version 1's better than version none. So it's all about getting out there and doing it. Prospect conversion rate. Make sure you make it easy for your customers to buy from you. So could you offer delivery on an online service, for example? Transaction value is, can you encourage your customers to buy more from you? Are there ways of offering other products that you could sell to them, or services that they may not be aware that you currently offer? Increase the transaction frequency, and I know this is difficult now, but it is going to be helpful when we come out of this position. What can you do to encourage your customers to come back more often? Can you, for example, lock in their next purchase order for you? Can you meet them face-to-face once we're allowed to have face-to-face meetings to talk about their business and what they can do to help you with your business? Could they, for example, refer you on to other people? Because we all want more work when this is done. Reduce cost of sales. What can you do to preserve your margins? Can you reduce errors that you've currently perhaps been a bit lax on letting go through, but now you need to tighten up on? Can you talk to your suppliers about getting a reduced price so that your margins can either stay the same or perhaps improve? Reduce the overheads. Always slightly tricky because there are some fixed overheads you can't normally get rid of, but I think in today's times you may find, for example, landlords are more willing to give a payment holiday or even actually say, no, for the 3 months we won't charge you rent, it's gone. So don't assume they won't, ask the question. Can you reduce your travel, entertainment and vehicle costs? All those things just be looking at. And I think that's the best thing we can do, is to reduce the overheads and look to increase the sales. And I keep saying again, it's not just today. All these things will come to the fore when we start reopening for business and we're looking at keeping a successful business going forward. I think we're now going to move on to talk about business bank assistance. And I know the banks are coming in for a bit of stick, and we're just going to have to see what happens, whether the government sits on a bit more, whether they become a little bit more helpful, but they're also in interesting and challenging times. When I look at my clients who have loans, it's one of the biggest items is not only the interest, but it's also the repayment of the capital that's outstanding. So it may be you can talk to the bank about stopping this drain of the cash going out of the repayments. Here are the sort of things we could go and talk to your bank about. So you could increase your temporary overdraft facilities. Banks may be willing to do this. Some may even be willing to do it without a personal guarantee. Look at reviewing and extending your trade credits. So that's talking to your suppliers, seeing whether you can agree a slight reduction in how you pay them, when you pay them. Asset finance funding. If you traditionally have always bought your fixed assets out of cash, can you perhaps talk to an HP company and refinance some of those assets, or that will give you cash and enable you to keep your business running? As I said, look for a loan repayment holiday, defer the repayments, or move on to interest-only terms. And I think if you can defer the capital repayment, that is going to give you cash to get on with your business, pay your suppliers, and perhaps even pay yourself a bit of money, whilst all that will then do is then lengthen the time you have to pay the bank back. So it may go from, say, a 4-year loan to a 5-year loan, but that cash flow is important. Again, linked in with that, it may just be if they won't give you a repayment holiday, you ask to go from a 5-year loan to a 6-year or 7-year loan. It's all pushing the can down the road a bit, but in today's time, it's all about getting cash into your business so you can continue to trade. Are there any short-term or hardship loans you can approach or get hold of? Take a personal short-term mortgage holiday. Again, that pushes back the cash you need to extract from the business. Can you apply for a business credit card? I think if you go and look at some of the credit cards, they say on average you might get 56 days credit by using a credit card. And some of the credit cards even give a 1% cash back. Now, okay, 1% is not a huge amount, but if you start putting a lot of your supplies through the credit card, you get 45, 50 days extra credit and you get a bit of cash back. So don't overlook that option. And some credit cards even work with zero really, really well, and it'll speed up your bookkeeping time. Don't. Penny's just shouted in my ear that when we use this capital on tap, I'd have a look at that. There might be a small cost to it, but it will save you time and you will get cash back on it. Moving on to a bit more boring matters and mundane, we're now looking at business insurances, and you don't want to overlook these at all. So a few of you might have, through the insurances you have, might have advice lines to HR experts. So if you're a Rowdens client, you have that through Corona TaxWise, and you can ring up a helpline and get advice on HR, which is how do I furlough clients, or cut staff rather, to have to pay them holiday whilst they're on furlough, things like that. So you need to make sure you're not building up a problem for yourself down the line by just not doing things correctly. The government could have made life easier by putting on hold some of these employment laws, but they chose not to. And personally, I suspect they had the unions in their ears saying, no, that's not right. And we're just going to have to live with it. Obviously, if you've shut the offices or the factories, now might be a chance for burglars to appear to steal property. Just make sure that your insurance policies cope with you being out of the office for the next 2 or 3 weeks, perhaps months. Clearly making sure you've got your own statutory liability insurance in place. That will cover your employees as well as customers. Now, clearly customers aren't going to come and look at you, visit the factory anymore, but staff might be having an issue from working from home. If you have your professional indemnity in place, make sure that's renewed. I think ours is due at the end of May, so we're certainly starting that process to make sure that's in place in case we drop any clangers and the client needs to have a go at us. And in today's environment, I know no one likes talking about death or taxes, but clearly we are seeing the likelihood of someone dying increasing, and you need to check you've got any shareholder buyout insurance or key person insurance to make sure that if something does happen, that the company or you are able to buy the shareholder out, keep working whilst you look to replace the key person who sadly died or is incapacitated. So please go and check all your policies up to date. And this I'm sure is the bit that everyone's waiting for, and it's the one we certainly had the most questions on yesterday, is what is the government doing to support businesses? And there's a long little list here, and if we just go down the list quickly. First up, obviously, the deferral of VAT until the end of the financial year. We think that means 31st of March 2021. It's not particularly clear, and it may be if you have a March VAT return period, it may be March 21. If you have a April stagger period, it may be April 21. We're not sure, but it's automatic. And what we're also saying to clients is stop the direct debit, because the revenue will attempt to collect any direct debit during this deferral period. Increase in working tax credits, universal credit. For some of our director-only clients, and perhaps I'm sure that'll be one of the questions we come up to, they may have to apply for that because the government have made a distinct decision not to support owner-managed working directors through any form of support at the moment. There have been changes to statutory sick pay, which makes it easier for you to pay your staff quickly. They only have to go for 1 day now rather than the usual 3 days of waiting. Interesting that there's a link to, we talk about the furloughing, that sometimes perhaps we will now see employees who are sick not telling their employers they're sick if they're on furlough, because they get more money if they've been furloughed than if they're on sick pay. The coronavirus job retention scheme for furloughed workers, we think this is great, but we wish there was a bit more guidance, detailed guidance on how it's going to work in practice, because certainly it's the one question that we're getting asked the most from our clients is, how does this work? Can they do any work? Will it cost me anything? Are they gaining holiday pay entitlement and things like that? So please think about it before you make a staff redundant. It is a nice scheme. It will pay them 80%, and there'll be no cost to you on that 80% because the government have confirmed that the employer's national insurance and any auto enrolment pension will also be covered in addition to £2,500 maximum grant. But the key thing here is that they mustn't work for you. So there are things you can do to make sure your staff aren't working. So if they've got access to Zero, for example, you may want to make them read only. You may want to turn off put something on their emails to say they're working, that they've been furloughed and who they should contact. And we're expecting revenue at some stage will want to check to make sure that people haven't abused this by saying someone's furloughed and actually they've carried on working. It's up to you to furlough somebody. If an employee comes to you and says they want to be furloughed, there is no right for them to insist they're furloughed. It's up to you. And already we're starting to see some clients are saying that they're hearing that the staff who aren't being furloughed are bitching and moaning about those who are, because they're being paid 100% to work, and someone might be getting 80% or even topped up to 100% for sitting around doing nothing. And that's just sad to hear, really. We're seeing the Corona Business Interruption Loan Scheme coming out. Banks are getting a bit of pressure on this because businesses are saying we're just not getting it. We hear that the banks aren't looking for personal guarantees from directors on loans up to £250,000. Once you can get onto the loan scheme, we'll just check on that, and if that's confirmed, we will put an email out to clients. It's great because you get a 12 months interest-free period from that. But what we're hearing is that if you've got a good business, the banks may say, yes, we'll lend you the money on our standard terms and you won't get into the Corona's Business Interruption Loan Scheme. And that really, for most of our clients, that's where they want to be because of the interest-free period for 12 months. Obviously, depending on what sort of business you're in, there may be a 12-month business rates holiday for some people, and there are rate grants. I think they're now being paid. We've heard tell that some money's actually appearing in bank accounts. Now, obviously, it's April the 1st. We're not sure if people are just having a laugh or whether they're actually seeing the money. But Chichester District Council, for example, they've been quite good. They've put the form out. We've had a letter. We've gone in and applied for it. And in fact, the letter actually says what grant you're going to get, so you don't even have to worry about what you think it is. I suspect some people who haven't got the rates letter may want to check to make sure that if they've recently taken on a lease, and then I think the cut-off date is 11th of March. If you took the lease on before then and the council don't know that you're now the new tenant, you need to be on the phone to them and say, hi, it's me. I took over this property on this date. Where's my money? We've also seen the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme coming in. Again, great idea, a bit light on detail. Whilst they're saying it's the average of 3 years profit, they haven't actually specified yet what that profit number is. Is it profit per the accounts? Is it profit after capital allowances? Profit after entertainment's been added back? And what happens if you have a loss in one period? Is that actually added as a negative number to work out the average, or is it a zero? All those things are going to come through in due course. And really, it's going to be £2,500 maximum for the next 3 months. And as a self-employed person, you are able to do other work. So it is different to the job retention scheme where your employees can do no work. And I think that's one of the key differences that you need to bear in mind. And I've mentioned before, but there is nothing yet for director-only businesses. And we're about to put out an email to our clients to say, if you're a director and you can see no work's coming in for the next 3 months, furlough yourself, fill in the form, and then perhaps in 3 to 4 weeks when the government open their portal scheme, we can have a chat with directors to see if they've actually qualified in that 3 to 4 week period, i.e. have you done any work? No, great, make the grant claim for you. So watch this space on that. I think that's it. What else is next?
It's to me.
Oh, over to Penny now.
Hello everyone again. So just to go through where we've got to so far, we've set out a few of the mindsets you need to have in these difficult times, what you need to do to look after yourself, your team and your customers. We've shared some ideas for how you can improve your sales, margin, profit and cash flow, even if an improvement is actually slowing the speed of decline rather than anything else more positive. We've shared in general terms what support is available from the government and other sources. Now it's essential that you decide what you're going to do. Clearly, doing nothing is not an option. Now's the time to put the oxygen mask on yourself and make a plan to get through this crisis. Even if that plan involves closing your business, you're better off to make that decision sooner rather than later. Part of that planning is to surround yourselves with experts, with us, your bank and your legal or HR advisors. We're all here to help you. Remember to stay above the line and live into the be, do, have mindset. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't. With this in mind, we've developed a business continuity plan and guide, which many of our clients have already had, but we'll go through it briefly now. And if you don't have it, let us know and we can get a copy to you. Okay, Deb, so if we can just go into the business continuity plan. That's so that's there. And really, it's just a matter of working through this and completing the boxes. Have a think about just sort of the detail in it. I mean, things like well-being, we've already talked about that a bit, but do think about, there's an awful lot of sort of online things, sort of relaxation, such as yoga, and exercise classes are going online. We've got one client who's doing online Pilates, and then there's fitness happening as well. So think about all of those things. I think it's some quite fun stuff going on with families at the moment. So look at your personal budget. That's, again, as I said earlier, that can be quite simple, and just work through the things that you can do there and where you can perhaps, you probably are cutting costs already, and see what you can do. We've been through the sort of updating insurances, and this is just a useful place to just get it all written down and just help you think it through. There's the COVID-19 prevention and response policy. Again, we can help you with that if you need a hand with doing that. Updating your team and ongoing communication. Determine the process of how you're doing that. We've got our team, we've got 6 members of staff now, and they're all working from home. We're communicating through sort of fun stuff through a WhatsApp group. We've got Slack going as well, which is an online communication. There's a free version which is very comprehensive, so I have to say we're using that for the moment. And you can have different channels. So we have a priorities channel where each member of the team sets out their priority for the day and what they're working on. So that helps us to keep a handle on it and helps them to prioritize what they're doing for the day. We've got channels for payroll and for clients and that sort of thing, so that helps. Look at your goals and your key performance indicators if you're actually monitoring those. Again, if you want to, we can certainly help you with that. But set new goals and targets to reflect updated responsibilities and the impact the pandemic will have on sales and revenue there. That's particularly important if you're furloughing some staff, but other staff are carrying on working. As we understand it, the furlough is for 3 weeks at a time, so it looks like you possibly can rotate your staff, sort of 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, so you might want to look at how people are responding to what's happening there. People are obviously working from home, so going back what I said before regarding using internal communications like Slack or maybe Microsoft Teams is another one if you've got Microsoft Office 365. We're also using Zoom as well. This webinar's on GoToWebinar, but we're using Zoom internally to be able to chat with clients and also chat the team too. So we have team meetings that they're doing between themselves, the managers with their team members, but also once a week we're having a Zoom meeting where we all get together via Zoom, and we can have the videos running and have chats and sort of just generally keep up morale and find out if everybody's okay and what they're doing. Obviously there's all the flexibility of working hours, so again work through that. It's just really an aid memoir this that helps you do that. And then just sort of running through it again is places where you can put your terms of trade in, etc. And really everything that we've just been talking about. So if you've got stock, you can again just a thing there where you can just work through and actually do the bits that you need, and it gives you a document too where you've got everything documented, which is really helpful. We've also brought out a guide to developing your business continuity plan. So this will help you in actually working through it. There is a disclaimer there because obviously things are changing very quickly. So this was sort of done about a week or two ago. So, you know, but do try and sort of keep up to date. But anyway, it will give you lots of really useful information. So that's gone out to clients. But if you need a copy, then let us know. Okay. So that's very much where we're at. If we can just go to the next slide, Debbie, I think that's right. Yeah, so this is sort of what we've developed as to how we can help you. We can do a sort of a formal online business continuity planning session, which would be probably about half a day. Obviously it would be online via Zoom. We could do it in a couple of 2-hour slots, or really whatever suits you. Obviously we do have to make a charge for it. We've put all these prices at sort of 50% of what we would normally charge for these type of sessions with our clients to try and help a bit. The sort of slightly lower version, or light version if you like, is where you can do the plan yourself, but if you'd like us to have a review meeting with you to go through it, then that would be the charge for that, and then we could spend about an hour and a half, something like that, going through it with you. I think the advantage of those 2 sessions, probably more than anything, is just to make you do it. You know, it's just if you're accountable to somebody, and just to have that, put aside that time and opportunity to actually sit down with us and make that plan. But equally, we've made these totally available to you. You complete it yourself, absolutely free. And you can always have a chat with us about it anyway, sort of briefly. So really just whatever, this just gives you choices, really whatever you would like to do. And you know, all is absolutely fine with us. We just want to help you as much as we possibly can. And so really that's come to the end of the webinar now. Obviously, if you've got any questions and haven't already put them in the question box, then do put them there now. And then Jonathan and I'll we'll try and answer anything we can. So thanks, Debbie, over to you.
Thank you. And thank you, Penny and Jonathan. You've just got such a lovely way of making me feel that it's going to be okay. You really, really do. And again, we did this webinar yesterday, and thank you for inviting me to support you in running this. Everybody who's on the webinar, you know Penny and Jonathan. I'm not a member of the Rowdens team. They've just asked me to come in and support them so they can deliver this great content for you. For me, my overwhelming feeling that I got watching this for the second time was the support that you're going to give me in the choices. And you alluded to it, Penny, the things that you have to do for your family as well, and how you'll support us in getting those plans in place. I know it's something that we still need to do as a family here in my little unit. So thank you. That's made me consider about, once this is done, getting on the phone and starting talking to people, and just sitting with my husband and going, right, where is everything? Very, very concise and brilliantly covered lots and lots of things. A couple of questions coming through where you were talking about flexible hours. Hannah, if we furlough, can we defer invoicing of any jobs that might come in during that time? Ooh.
I think the answer is if you have been furloughed, you cannot do any work for the company at all. Obviously, it could be if you have enough people on a team, you could furlough 2 today and keep 1 person back to do some processing. It could be you have a really busy period at the start of the month, you just wait for a week until you then furlough the staff. If you're a director, we're about to put out something on that as to whether you should or shouldn't furlough yourself. We're still waiting guidance, but our view is, as I said earlier, that if you're a director and you know you're not going to do any work in the next few weeks, but furlough yourself now, get the letters in place, and then you can always choose towards the end of the month when the payrolls run, whether looking back at the previous month, you have done work for the company. And if you have, you don't claim the grant. If you haven't, you claim the grant.
Yeah,
I think though in terms of deferral of invoicing, my gut feeling is that it would be better to get those invoices out if you possibly can, and then furlough yourself later, because obviously you know, if you're doing the work and you've done the work, then get the invoices out and see if you can get your clients to pay you. Because obviously the real key thing is to get cash into the business, even if you perhaps have to agree payment terms, you know, maybe spread the payments out if necessary, but anything you can do to try and keep working and keep your company in a position to be able to be ready and waiting when this is all over has got to be helpful. Clearly there is the timing of these things, but it really is, even with the furloughing of directors, I think we've sort of had guidance that directors can furlough themselves and keep the company operating in terms of paying staff or, you know, doing admin, but what they mustn't do is be marketing the company. Oh, hang on a minute, Jonathan's just shaking his head there. So I think
I don't think admin is if you have some director responsibilities like doing the annual accounts, confirmation statement, they're allowing that. We just don't have enough guidance as to what else you can do. Can you keep the company up to date? Who knows? Yeah.
Okay. So, but he's certainly absolutely right that you can't be sort of going out looking for business and marketing and that sort of thing. So I think if you've got the chance to do some invoicing now, get that done, and then
get cash in
afterwards.
Yeah, like I say, get cash in. And this is being recorded, everybody. So if anybody is thinking about ways of getting cash in and everything, and getting it in quicker in line with those kind of questions that Hannah's just raised there, the videos and the recordings will be made available to you for this. So in terms of, you know, we've got another question here saying, so you would agree that it's better to start the process and putting in choices and options in place and hoping that I don't have to use them? So start running the applications and those kind of things. So we're putting them in place rather than waiting and seeing, actually start taking some action now is one of the questions we've got now. Would you agree with that? That that's a better position to put yourself in?
It's always good to have a plan. Some of these, you know, the advice to directors to furlough themselves, that's just I guess it's a protective measure. Hopefully you won't need to use it because you'll be doing chargeable work or actually go and do some work, but it's just there in the background that if you haven't done work, you have all the right paperwork to say, yes, I've furloughed myself on this date, which might be 1st of April. But the key thing is, we talked about it before, is having a plan. I guess none of the plans might have business plans you've had already are going to cope with what's happening now, but you have a starter for 10 to work on what's going to happen in the next few months and after that when this virus has disappeared.
Yeah, cool. And in line with that, and I don't want to preempt and answer the question for you, but we've got what, you know, the big learnings, what can we do to safeguard ourselves from this? How can we learn from this and protect ourselves from the future? I think it's a similar question.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to having a plan, both in the short term, the medium term, and I think what we will be seeing from clients is they will look to perhaps retain some more profit stroke cash in the business, and will be looking to restrict their lifestyle so that they can build up a buffer, because I just know from forums and talking to clients that a lot of them do not have the money to survive for 3 months without any money from their company. I suspect, having gone through that process and coming out the other side, that will be one of the main things they want to do over the next 6 to 12 months is protect themselves. And again, having a plan to do that, how you're going to generate the profit, how you're going to take money out is all part and parcel of what they should be doing now.
Yeah, and I think also that you know, it really is important to have a cash flow forecast. You know, as we've been sort of saying in this webinar, that cash really is the oxygen of the business, and I think it's very, very important for businesses to have a cash flow forecast so that they can model the different situations with cash coming in or out of the business. And it really then helps you to see what the future might look like and perhaps then help you make the right choices in what to do So again, it's all about planning and forecasting. And I think, you know, we do have tools that can help you. We've put out a free cash flow forecast on the Facebook page. I can't remember whether we sent it to clients as well. But there is that. We've also got some slightly more sophisticated software that we're trying to sort of get out to clients at as low a cost as we possibly can to help you plan for the future. And that really is very nice. It links with your Xero accounts and does some nice modelling for you. The software providers are sort of doing deals at the moment, so we are taking advantage of that. So if anybody would like some cash flow forecasts that will link in beautifully with their Xero software, then please do talk to us, because I think it really will be very, very important for taking this forward. You know, getting through these very difficult times.
Brilliant. So
and
yeah,
I think
go.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, and also just sort of do remember that everything you're suffering, that we are suffering too. We're a small business as well, and you know, we're absolutely in this with you. We totally understand what you're going through. We have roller coaster days too, sort of up and down, and it's you know, it is just very, very important to know that we're absolutely there for you, and feel every bit of your pain. We're just as angry about the lack of support for company directors as you are, and you should have seen the steam coming out of our ears at the Chancellor's announcement for the self-employed, where you know, company directors were deliberately left out. And we have been lobbying our institute and putting stuff out on Twitter, sort of directly to Rishi Sunak and everything as well. So you know, and the accountant fraternity is absolutely up in arms about this. So you know, we're doing everything we can.
Brilliant. And thank you for, you know, we know that, and I think a lot of people do forget. They see you guys, accountants and HR professionals and the legal team, they see you and your professional guys, but what's come across beautifully in this session is the humanity that you're putting together for your clients and, you know, your non-clients, you know, bringing people together. Let's say, I think what you've just offered there around bringing some visibility into the cash flow and getting an understanding, however you can digest the numbers by using different tools, that's great. But I think also linking it to mapping out an actual human personal plan. For me, I'm quite a number blind person. So I think actually understanding what is going to be driving me and triggering me emotionally for my wants and needs and the outcomes that I want my business to be delivering for me. You know, we all work to live. I think that's a beautiful thing. I'll be sitting down with you guys and going, can you help me make sense of this? Because I frequently look at my business bank side of things and go, don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm up for that. And in line with that, we've got a couple of other questions. We've got some people saying, yes, interested in the continuity plan. Challenges are around just, you know, don't have the normal core working hours and homeschooling kids. If we want to do these meetings with you and these plans, are they online? Can they be outside of what would be core hours, or are they in core hours? Do we have flexibility around what you accommodating people with that?
The answer is yes, we do it at any time, obviously within reason. So if we start a session at 10 o'clock in the evening, we're probably not going to welcome that, because that's going to be, if it's a 4-hour session, that's going to be 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock by the time we're finished. But we understand our clients are going to need us more than ever at this time. So we're not going to be sitting here saying no hours are 9 to 5:30. Earlier starts, later evenings, that's fine. Weekends, probably better.
Yeah,
because that's
brilliant.
outside our workings.
Again, wonderful, having choice and being able to have options in a time where maybe some of us don't feel like we've had that. That's brilliant. I'm conscious that time is getting tight for everybody. All the questions that you have collated here, we will be collating and sharing. So Penny and Jonathan will be coming back to you. Just thank you again. I've thoroughly enjoyed my last 2 days. I've learned so much, and I feel really safe and confident about moving into the future. So thank you on a personal level of sharing this. I've learned so much, and thank you for sharing this. I'm just going to hand back to you guys now to wrap up.
Thank you, Debs. That's very good. So we've really just got a parting thought here, that anyone can lead when the plan is working, but the best lead when the plan falls apart. And I think it's probably quite a good way to think about things. Just try and hang in there, stay positive, and you know, sort of have a think about what we've said here, and you know, go forward, sort of be above the line, take that ownership mindset, and let's get through this. So just to finally say thank you everyone for coming and listening to us on this webinar, and thank you very much to Debbie as well for helping us through it, as you know, this has been the first couple of webinars that we've delivered personally as a firm, so it's been really great to have your help, and I'm very excited now to be moving on and doing more. And I think, like all businesses, that a lot of us are really having to step up and learn new ways of doing things. So it's great. We've always been a very online business, but we have rather shied away from doing this sort of thing. So this is our opportunity now to learn new skills and take life forward. So that's exciting, even if we've got a tough few months ahead of us. So take care, everyone, and look after yourselves and your families. And you know, we're there for you. So please do contact us if you need any help. Okay, thanks a lot.